It was a very dark period, a time called the Blitz in World War II, when London and other English cities were being pounded night after night after night by Luftwaffe bombing. And it was devastating to the English economy and industry, and really devastating to people's lives. More than 40,000 civilians lost their lives during the Blitz. And yet, at the same time, while it was a very dark period, it's also remembered as their finest hour, in the words of Winston Churchill. Their finest hour. What is it that made it their finest hour? I think sometimes it's glibly dismissed as just an English stiff upper lip, as a carry-on spirit, the spirit of the Blitz being a sort of plucky resilience. There is that. But there's something much, much more, much deeper that makes this period their finest hour. During the Blitz, there was something called the blackout. It was really the only defense measure that everyone could participate in. And basically all it meant is that all the lights were out. All the street lights were out, all the sign lights were out, and in people's homes, they either had to turn out their lights or have these very thick curtains that would cover the windows, and they were sealed at the edges so that no light could leak out and be a beacon to the German bombers to target. And I imagine that would have made a frightening time, an anxious time, a time of loss and pain. Would have made it even worse to walk outside and to experience that darkness in the midst of a city, like being in a dark forest on a dark night. And yet it's something that everyone could participate in. I imagine that not everybody participated freely and willingly. And that's a reason why there were air raid wardens who would go around and tell people to turn out their lights. Maybe some people got tired of it. Maybe some people pushed back at it. Maybe some people doubted whether it was having any impact at all. They might have said, you know what, I've had enough of this blackout. I don't care anymore. I'm gonna pull my curtains away. I'm gonna turn my lights on. I don't care. Because I don't see, the government hasn't given me any proof that these blackouts actually help, because the bombs keep falling. What I can see is that when I go outside, I can't see the hand in front of my face. And what I do see is that there's more traffic accidents. And I see that my friend got hit by a car. And I have no doubt that there would be people like that. And I have no doubt that some of them might even have had religious justification. And they might have thrown out Bible passages. What does it say in Genesis? God said, "Let there be light." And what does the prophet say? The prophet says, the people who walked in darkness have seen a great light. And what does Jesus say? Jesus says, a city is set upon a hill cannot be hid. Let your light so shine before men. So I'm not going to participate in this blackout. I'm going to pull my curtains aside. I'm going to let my light shine out, and I don't care who sees it. I don't care, because you know what? Let the bombs fall. Let the bombs fall, because Jesus is going to protect me. I don't care if my light shines, because Jesus is going to protect me. There may well have been people like that. I thank God that those people didn't get any traction at that time. There was too much community spirit. There was too much of a sense of being our brother's keeper, our sister's keeper. There was too much biblical literacy to fall for those scriptures being taken out of context and twisted to an agenda, for people to fall for that. I thank God for that. That we can look back and say this was their finest hour. And when we think about this was their finest hour, it was not those who said, I don't care, let the bombs fall so long as they don't fall on me. When we say this was their finest hour, we think about the firefighters who are out fighting those fires and protecting the lives of their fellow citizens even while the bombs fell. We think about the people who were picking up their neighbors who were injured or hurt and carrying them to safety. We think about the people who day after day were helping their neighbors to pull their lives out of the rubble and to carry on. This was their finest hour, when they stood up to the forces of darkness and stood together. And I thank God that they had biblical literacy in Britain in that time, that they would have seen those false proof texts of Scripture for what they were, and they would have been able to respond with Scripture. Like from Philippians, where Paul writes out of a very dark place in his life, a physically dark and dark circumstances in his life. He writes a letter of joy and hope and promise. And in it he says to us, he says, therefore, if you have any encouragement from being united with Christ, if any comfort from his love, if any common sharing in the Spirit, if any tenderness and compassion, then make my joy complete by being like-minded, having the same love, being one in spirit and of one mind. Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves, not looking to your own interests, not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interests of others. This is the word of the Lord, a word spoken into the darkness of these times, a word of light and life, of hope and promise. And in this, I pray that you do have a hope-filled day.